Okay, so a few videos ago, I actually asked for the community's help. Because in that video, I talked about an article, and it talked about 9 countries whose tolerance for US tourists is starting to get thin. Now, halfway through that article and reading it out, I kind of realized that the article was really biased, or downplaying how bad it actually is. So I put out a request to our viewers, and let me show you the video of what I actually requested. Now, the 9 countries that I just read out to you is just a small sample, and the more I read into it, the more I saw the bias in the article, which leads me to believe maybe I should create my own video on it, not article. Because I feel that the community here that we have, and the viewers from across the world, would actually give real boots on the ground experience and thoughts what they think about the US citizens in their country. So in order for me to make this video, I actually need the help from the community, those people watching right now. My question to you right now is, how do you feel about US citizens in your country and their behavior? Have you experienced rude behavior from US citizens in your country? If so, share the story in your comment below, and if I get enough of them, I'll read it out and create a video. Well, the community definitely responded. Typically, my videos, they had anywhere between like 1,500 to maybe 1,800 comments per video. But this one specific video where I put out the request, it was over 3,000 comments. And some of them I can't read out loud. But in this video, I'm going to read out some of these comments, like a small sliver of the amount that I got. And it's not just from Canadians, it's actually from viewers from all over the world. And they give their feedback on how right away they can tell the US citizens have arrived. Now, before I read out the comments, I want to show everybody this video. I have played it before, but this US citizen speaks the absolute truth when it comes to her fellow citizens and traveling abroad. I'll play this clip first, and then we'll read out the comments after.
I know somewhere out there in TikTok land, someone is going to disagree with this, but Americans are some of the most disliked people when it comes to traveling. And most of us are oblivious to that. The fact that we think, oh, we're so liked, people love us. No. We are tolerated. The US dollar is liked. The fact that Canadians rush to tell people, oh, I'm from Canada, so people don't confuse them with Americans, it's the entitlement, like the rude behavior when we travel.
Now, I get this question all the time, especially living in Malaysia right now. Are you from America? First thing I say is no. And I said this before, my wife usually sometimes says if she's in a bad mood, she'll say fuck no. You know, before I used to be offended when people would call me like an American citizen, but nowadays I'm actually proud. And in a sense, I actually do hope they call me an American, because I can correct them right away. And lately, when I've been called an American, and I say no, I'm Canadian, they will profusely apologize for calling me an American. I mean, hell, I got a free dessert out of it one time. We were at a restaurant, and the waiter actually, mistaken us for Americans. And they felt so bad that they actually gave us a free dessert.
I'm at the airport heading to the Bahamas for a few days for work. I'm going through security, and this American, and I'm gonna tell you how I know he's American. There was a water bottle, right? In the States, if you say that you have a medical condition, you have paperwork, they'll let you take water through because you might need it for your pills, right? He had a water bottle, and they said you can throw it in the trash. Do you want to drink it now? He didn't mention like I need it. He just says, no, you're gonna put it back in my bag. And I know this because I started moving really slow to hear him. This man says, I'm American, and I want to speak to your supervisor. That was the second thing that came out of his mouth. The lady who was putting her electronics back in the bag behind me, she's like, pinche gringos. And I'm like, and I chuckled because that is how the world views us. We go to these places and we just think whatever works in the United States, it should work in every other country. And then we demand that, like it's our right, our birthright. Because I'm American, you should treat me this way. You should bend over backwards for me. I have a water bottle in my bag. I did not explain to you why I have the water bottle. I just got upset and said, I'm American, let me speak to your supervisor. And it could very well be that he just did not feel comfortable sharing why he needed a water bottle. But this is like an international rule. You cannot bring anything over 3.4 ounces. A water bottle that has water in it, it's probably like 8 ounces. That would be over 3.4 ounces. So the fact that you're sitting there, you're like, I'm American, okay? And you could tell that they were really trying to be patient with them. They were trying.
Now, I'm going to end her video there because I want more time to read out your comments. But she's right. The entitlement, just because they're from the United States, is something that the rest of the world is not going to deal with anymore. Now, I know this has been going on for years and decades, and long before I was even born. And just so everybody knows, I was born in the early 80s. And I know some people might say I don't sound like I'm in my mid-40s. I am. My back hurts, my knee hurts, and also my ankles. And pulling my shoulder by sneezing is becoming a regular occurrence. Anyways, getting back to the topic of the video. The article I did in a video a few days ago didn't really serve any justice. So today, we're going to hear some raw feedback from everyone around the world. Now these screenshots I'm going to show you are in no particular order. So let's get started with the first one. The first one is from one of our viewers named Phil H1525. About 5 or 6 years ago, I confronted some bigot Yanks on a bus in the UK. They said a young man wearing nail polish offended them. This was in a university town, and I just finished a breakfast shift in a hotel kitchen. So they got both barrels of angry chef in their faces, and it was satisfying and therapeutic. Australian here. Our patients regarding the US tourists are getting frosty due to how they disrespected our fallen who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their wars. I have seen a young US couple, and when they said they were American, the room got frosty really quickly. Just normal politeness, but it's still a lot of side looks from the rest of us. Now I think a lot of us can relate to this. I mean, at least for me personally, I don't want a confrontation. Unless they start it. But let's not beat around the bush, we're all going to be judging them. Until they prove that they didn't vote for the orange guy. This next one is from TT.3. I'm very fortunate to live in Paris, which is perhaps one of the most beautiful cities in the world. However, the flip side of the coin is that it's also one of the most visited. American tourists have always been unbearable. They shout at cafe terraces and treat locals like theme park staff. Along with the Russians, who we don't see much lately, they are absolutely rude. I sincerely pity the servers who they treat like dogs, just as they likely do back home I suppose. But here, the behavior is completely unacceptable. The next one is from Great to be me. Oh, I see what you did there. Hello from Edmonton, Alberta. I remember when I was visiting Stockholm, Sweden about 20 years ago. I got lost in the city. I tried to speak Swedish and ask for directions. The response I got was, "Are you Canadian or an American?" The tonal difference was noticeable. When she said the word Canadian, she had a pitched tone of hopeful. Then American, her tone went down, even her facial expression. When I said Canadian, they happily said, "We like Canadians, you're so polite." Then had a giggle and chat for a bit and gave me directions. I recall the experience with such clarity because I had no idea back then that Americans were considered rude. I know for sure that some Swedish people feel even more so now. Well, let's hear from a Swedish person. This one here is from Peter Bockholm, 3176. Swede here. My ability to understand and speak English diminishes rapidly if I find myself being approached by someone from the US. If they were a red hat, I only speak Swedish, French, German, no English at all. I don't want them in my country. I think that was a good follow-up comment. This next one is from Relic554. I spent a year in Latin America, and honestly, no other tourists were as loud as entitled Americans. Yet they trash talk everyone below their own southern border. Well, also the northern border too. Now this one's a good one. It's from Jason Z, 9902. I was at a restaurant in Guatemala, and the American couple in front of me started yelling at the staff for not speaking English because a sign outside said Burger King. I said stuff and they shut up. Typical arrogant attitude I found in a lot of Americans I meet traveling. I don't think in my work travels I ever come across any time where somebody was complaining about not speaking English. But I have seen a few times where they got upset because they didn't accept their US dollar. And both times, the person actually said, "Everybody wants the US dollar, why aren't you accepting it?" Now this next one is from my home province in British Columbia. It's from Wilhelm Scream. Wilhelm Scream? Sorry if I mispronounced that. I occasionally encounter Americans being really American while growing up in Victoria. Impatient with line, demanding a customer stop chit-chatting with a clerk, firearms in her car from Port Angeles arriving into Princess Margaret or Coho. Abroad, I'm more concerned that I correct someone who thinks I'm American. That usually softens the mood and invites conversation. Either to grease me up for a tip or just practice English swear words. Abroad though, I have used the general animus towards Americans a couple times. When you have a beef with someone, I won't say I'm an American, but I won't correct the person's assumption I am either. And I've seen low-key petty hostility towards Americans while I'm traveling. Slow and surely service maybe? A bit less ice cream on their cone? Most of those Americans are like any other tourist anywhere. Out of place, confused, good naturally to get by. I felt bad for them because they're usually trying hard. I try my best to show my appreciation for their effort. Now I don't want this video to be bashing and generalizing all US citizens, because I'm not. And I have met some great US citizens here in Malaysia. The key difference is that they're aware. They're aware of their fellow citizens and how they act abroad. So I do advise everybody to give them a chance. I mean, most of the interactions I get, the first thing they do when they find out I'm Canadian, they'll apologize for what their country's doing to Canada and the rest of the world. And that usually lightens the mood. The next one comes from Carmen Comes Last 811. From a US tourist town, the US tourists have been louder, ruder, and more condescending to us locals the last 10 years, and especially cruel to anyone in the service industry who isn't white. Those of us who can't afford our own resorts, let alone overseas travel, feel your pain. Obviously, pandering these bullies have made things worse. I applaud the stance taken by everyone in these countries. Switzerland abandoning their neutrality over the orange guy when they did not for Hitler or any other tyrant over 200 years says it all. Elbows up, everybody, and sorry. This next one comes from System 509. I just got back from Portugal, got woken up in the middle of the night in my hotel room by an American family who gave zero thoughts about the volume in their voices at 3 in the morning. Needless to say, American rudeness isn't a stereotype. It's just who and what they are. This next one is from Jazzy Doe. Germany has another layer. For 80 years, we were portrayed as the villains in so many movies, and Americans did love to throw the Nazi around quite a lot, if you were from Germany. And now the guys who said that are walking in the same shoes. So yes, general reception will be frosty till you state who you voted for. I'm sorry for those Americans who do their best to resist. Those people will be welcomed with open arms. Ugh, please don't say open arms. But till then, you will have to face some scrutiny, I'm afraid. And for reference, even 80 years later, I still get asked what my grandparents did during the war. So if you thought this will blow over once the orange guy is out of the office, maybe not. This next one is from Ton Liz Black. Sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I have already had coffee thrown at me because I didn't want to accept US dollars in Europe. I tried to explain why the US dollar isn't tender in Europe, but throwing coffee on the counter and splashing it into me was more reasonable for her. I'm really sorry to hear that happen to you, and if it was me, I don't think I would have as much patience as you. This next one is from Beast1D 8596. I was a hotel restaurant hostess. I was seating a couple from there. I think we all know where there is. We didn't have a coat check, so she had to put it on the chair, complaining about it. She happened to hit me with the arm of the coat, and I automatically said sorry. She replied, I should hope so. What a bitch. I was a little stunned. Needless to say, I was conveniently too busy to check up on them. I've got a few more stories about them. Winterpeg. This next one is from VH5507. My experience with Americans in my shop was not good. They announced their Americanness right away and thought they were in control of the shop by being demanding and not understanding how the exchange of their money works in Canada. Trying to explain anything to them was beyond frustrating because they really thought they were in charge, and they knew best as they do better things in America. They don't understand the metric system and refuse to take direction from the shop assistants because, again, they know best because it isn't the American way. The next one is from Row C 6608. No, wait, 6680. Yay, dyslexia. I'm almost ashamed to say I don't care if Americans hear me anymore dissing their country. It's tourist season here in Ireland, and I was complaining in a shop about my heating coil costing over double thanks to the orange guy's troublemaking. An American tourist walked in and heard me, and I'm glad. They need to know that we're suffering due to the greed and stupidity. I have less patience than the Irish as an Australian. I think everybody can agree with you, Rose, and the world right now, quite frankly, we're all running out of patience. Now this next one is from a viewer named Broke But Happy, who is also a channel member. Where should I start? I can share one from my friend who is a police officer here. They were called out and met an American who's screaming shit up their face. Of course they put him up against a wall because he was batshit crazy. He kept yelling that he's protected by free speech in the Constitution and needed probable cause to get his ID searched for him. He referenced some court ruling. He was quiet when he figures out that the US Constitution is not valid outside the United States. I think this is more common than people think. This is not the first time I've heard an American say outside of the United States, well, I have my constitutional rights. Now back to the comment. And one American who was stopped for speeding in a rental car, speeding quite a lot, had to pay a fine on the spot, and he lost his right to drive for almost a year. He was quiet when he understood his things are here. I think that's things. I worked at a hotel when I was young in the 90s. There was this American who tilted because he couldn't pay with USD, because that was the only valid money. I told him that we used Norwegian kroner, and of course he laughed and called it monopoly money. It must be said that this moron, his wife, and kids asked me if we had internet and if we had real mattresses. Now I can't count the amount of times I've heard US citizens say, Canadians, you have funny looking money, or monopoly money, or fake money, or money that's not worth anything. I don't know, I guess you can call it a sense of like bragging and power. But what happens if one day the Canadian dollar actually is worth more than the US dollar? It's happened. And with the way things are going right now, I'm not ruling it out. Now this next one is from Compact 1951. Canadian travel here. An American in front of me in a Toronto store was given Canadian change for his purchase when he was expecting US change back. He screamed at the cashier, "What am I supposed to do with this shit?" When she responded, "Spend it," he threw it on the counter and left $60 Canadian behind. What an idiot. I have another comment here regarding money, and this one's from Raya Swain. As a Canadian BC, I worked at a busy gas station convenience store. Just last week, I had to refuse $50 USD because the customer insisted I should give him exchange. I told him that I accepted at face value, or he could pay with his purchase another way. I had to bring my manager into the conversation. He kept his money. Entitled American. Shake my head. The next one is from Peter Corvors, 1041. We were in Paris 2 weeks ago, sitting outside a cafe having breakfast. Couple of tables over were 3 American women. It was the only table you can hear throughout the entire street. talking and laughing excessively loud, basically acting out the meme of why Americans are disliked in Europe. This next one is from Era 515. Being stuck on a packed tour bus in Europe for 14 days with 80% Americans. Ugh. Scares me off taking tours for nearly 20 years. Now, there were some quiet, respectful ones, but the obnoxious, loud, entitled ones really ruined the trip. For future trips after that, we explored Europe and the UK on our own, and avoided Americans, especially in groups, as much as possible. Hearing them complain about how things weren't run properly, like back home. Oh my god, I've heard that so many times. Or talking even louder because they thought non-English speaking people would understand them, and their ignorance about places they were visiting still astonishes me. Okay, I have a few more to go through because this video is starting to get long. So let me quickly go through these ones. Forever Together 369. My husband and I, Americans living in Switzerland, have visited France without any issues. We were quiet and respectful, and neither of us tried to impose our way. Some locals were surprised to learn that we were Americans. They told us that the Americans that they have encountered were often rude, loud, and entitled. One of the locals told us that American behavior has gotten worse since the orange stain came back into power. Now, Forever Together 369, if I met you in my travels, I would shake your hand. Because there needs to be more US citizens like you. Because unfortunately, many of your fellow US citizens are ruining your reputation. And last one for today, and I thought I would end it on a good note. This one's from Luke1967. Dutch here, guard the leave. You had no idea how loved Canadians are here in the Netherlands. If I have the change to take some pictures of the way Canadian soldiers are remembered in some of the small villages in the east of the Netherlands, I would love to send them to you. I've seen flags, Dutch flags, of the maple leaf on it. And it's almost May. 4 and 5 May are very important days here. 4th of May, National Remembrance Day, and 5th of May, Liberation Day. It is impressive to see how many Canadians are remembered. I want to thank you, Luke, for this comment, and it should be a reminder to all Canadians that we do have friends globally, and people that respect us. The Netherlands is on my bucket list, so whenever I do get a chance, or, especially when flight prices go down, I do plan to do a trip to Europe. So I do want to thank you again, Luke, for reminding all Canadians that we do have friends overseas. And the last bonus comment from Nope Ninja 8883, pet your cat for us. Oh, trust me, I do. And no amount of petting is going to make her be quiet. And since we're on the co-host topic, I've seen a lot of people saying, go feed your cat. It's not a feeding problem, it's a detention problem. And I saw some comments from some of our viewers saying that she's probably talking to me. Because what I'm noticing is that if I'm not speaking into the mic, she's quiet. But the second I start speaking into the mic, she's loud. I mean, I think the viewers heard her earlier. She came in here, did her yelling, and then pranced out and decided that she was done. But don't worry, Nope Ninja, I'll give her some pets after this. Now, what I just read out to you is a small sliver of the 3,000 plus comments that I received in my video. And it really shows that it's not just a Canadian thing anymore, it's a global thing. And unfortunately for any US citizens that's traveling abroad right now, it is the new norm that you might be asked who you voted for. And unfortunately, it might be something you have to get used to. Now, like I mentioned, I only did a small sliver of the total comments. If the GTL community wants me to do another video, let me know in the comments below. Just say something like, yes, create a second video. And if there's enough responses, I'll continue searching for more comments out of the 3,000 plus to be able to show the community. So let me know in the comments below if I should do a second video. To close off this video, I would like to thank Chaos Spirit 0327 from our Discord server for posting this photo near Trafalgar Park in Victoria. I have a soft spot for any photos that are, along the water or along the lake shore, because I don't get that very much where I am right now. Okay, I understand, I see you, you're back. But thanks again, Chaos Spirit, and appreciate you posting this to the Discord server. Alright, I think I need to go play with the cat. If you found any value or agree with anything I said in this video, or you want to hear more from a Canadian and international perspective, without the US media bias, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. That way you'll be notified of my future videos. And if you want to see more of my videos, check out the ones that are going to show up on the screen shortly. Thanks everyone, I'll catch you in the next one.